Hello, friends, and welcome back to the new episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady. And our first story today. Sorry, you need to complain to someone else. Keeping things vague due to this taking place at my actual place of work. I work for a train operating company in a capital city. Unfortunately, I live on the same line that I drive trains on, therefore I'm frequently at my home station in full uniform. My home station is served by two different companies, City Above Ground, my employer, and Southwards, a competitor. My own company is under the remit of Transportation for City, which encompasses a lot of different modes of transportation in the city. Being in uniform on the way to and from my depot, I often get stopped and asked questions, and I readily offer help. It's usually a "how do I get to" or "when is the next train to" type of question. I'm in uniform and representing the company whether I like it or not, so why wouldn't I? I was on my way home and used a Southwards train the 2 stops to my local station. After I'd gotten off and was walking along the platform, I was stopped by a man and asked if I work there at the station or if I'm going home. I said, "I'm going home." And he told me, "Don't worry," and I replied, "That's fine. I'm going home, but I do work for the company. I can probably help." He then started telling me about how he's frustrated and fed up with the trains being late and diverted all the time. My company has been doing this quite a bit recently, so I took the bait. His tone throughout was respectful, calm, and genuine, and I admired him for that, so I let him vent. He knew what he wanted to say and got it across without yelling or raising his voice. This was a man who had admitted defeat. Because he was polite, I gave him a polite answer and explained the company's reasoning behind diverting trains when late. I went into more detail than I would normally because I could tell he was actually listening to my responses instead of waiting to vent more. He asked me a few more questions and I replied, and then he asked me, "So why do you divert to X station instead of Y station? My train gets sent there nearly every other evening instead of going to Y station. We don't drive to those stations." Then I realized what had happened. "Oh, sorry, I work for City Above Ground. You need to speak to someone from Southwards." "Mate, this is ridiculous. You guys make it so difficult to know who to complain to. Is it worth speaking to someone in the ticket office? Will they take a formal complaint?" Unfortunately not, as this is a City Above Ground managed station with City Above Ground employees. Your best bet is Twitter. "Yeah, don't worry. I'll be sending a message to Transportation for City, all right. Thanks for nothing." Sorry, they aren't under the jurisdiction of Transportation for City. They won't help. Message Southwards directly. "You're all the same. No respect for the common man." I love how he went from respectful and nice to being a total jerk in about 45 seconds. Another train started pulling into the platform, so I made my excuses and left. The ownership and operation of the transport of my city is completely misunderstood, so I can understand the confusion. Remember, it's not the driver or the station staff that make the decision about when to divert or make changes to the schedule. It's the people miles away from the public, hiding behind computer screens. Please don't berate the staff you encounter, as it's not their fault and they have no say in what happens. They're just following instructions. It's a good story. Weird how his tone took a 180 after you told him what station he needed to talk to, though. And our next story. You're wearing dress clothes. You must be in charge. I live in a gated townhouse/apartment complex and had the pleasure of dealing with a crazy lady who assumed I was the complex manager. She had received a ticket outside the previous night and wanted video from security cameras that are near the gates of my complex. I'm a manager for a retail store, so I have to wear business clothes, slacks, dress shoes, shirt, tie, etc. I was walking towards my car, which is parked outside, dreading the thought of my early LA traffic commute. I notice a lady near the gate I'm headed towards starting in my direction. I see her do a "over here" motion and wave her hand. I assume she just wanted to get in and didn't have a key. Happens all the time, so I walk over and open the gate. I'll be me, and she'll be CL for Crazy Lady. CL: "Hi, I got a ticket last night, and I need to get video of the street from those cameras. Take me to the office." Me: I just live here, ma'am. I'm just heading out." CL: "Well, of course you live here. I need a solution. I want that video." Me: "Yep. I don't know how you're going to get it, to be honest. I do apologize, but I gotta go." CL: "You're the manager. Where's the office building? Tell me now." Me: "I don't know, ma'am. This is a large complex, and I'm only familiar with my apartment. How do you not know where the office is? I do apologize, but I have no idea where the office is. The complex is huge, and I really wasn't lying about the layout. I only know my area. So I started walking away as I had to get to work. She just stood there staring at me, perplexed as I walked away. Another resident happened to be leaving at the same time and got caught by the CL. She had much less patience than me and abruptly told the lady that we had no on-site management. We were under the ownership of a large property management company. The crazy lady began to ask how she would go about getting the number, to which the other resident replied, "No idea, lady." You being the manager, I can't believe you didn't help her. It's your job to help. She's eventually going to end up complaining to someone at the property management company about you, and they'll have no idea what she's talking about. And our third story. This isn't a doggy daycare at all. A while back, I was working in an office that allowed dogs. It was an open floor plan, and since customers came into the office, we kept the dogs' food and water bowls right by the front door, just because it was the most convenient space, and no one else would see them but those of us who worked there. Of the 6 of us who worked in the main office area, I was the only one who didn't have a dog, no pets policy at the apartment, and always felt horribly left out. To make matters worse, across the way was a doggy daycare. One day, a very frantic woman came in, and she had an absolutely massive basset hound with her. Usually, the only people who came into the office were associates who had appointments and someone working there. But it was rare that they brought in their dogs. She ran up to me and said, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Yes, how can I help?" And she just said, "I wasn't sure if you took walk-ins, but I read online I could just drop them off. I tried to call, but no answer." I didn't really know what she was talking about at that point. And I said, "Come again? Who did you call exactly?" Thinking if I could just saddle her off to whoever she came to see, I wouldn't have to decipher her problem. She said, "Well, it doesn't matter now. Look, something urgent came up and I really need to leave him here. Here's the food he likes and I'll be back in a few hours." And at this point, I wasn't thinking of the doggy daycare. I thought maybe she was a friend of someone here. And I said, "Well, okay, can I get your name, please?" And she said her name and then asked if I needed her to sign anything. I was so confused at this point, I just said, "Why would I need you to sign something?" And then she left immediately. So I took Otis, the dog, to the back and showed him to my coworkers. Nobody knew the woman or the dog. I was worried she wouldn't come back, but at the same time, my wish for an office dog had been granted, and Otis was supremely chill. All he did all day was lie around and drool into his own ears. I just freshened him up every now and then, took him out every couple hours. He was happy as a clam on a big cushy dog bed we thankfully had an extra of. He loved the attention from anywhere he could get it. At the end of the day, the woman, thank God, came back and said, "Thanks, you're a lifesaver. How was he?" I said, "He was a champ." I was about to say, "But why is he here?" when she said, "Well, that's a relief. Most kennels say he gets anxious around other dogs. I heard you operated at a much higher capacity. I was thrilled to see you had so few clients in the room at one time. So, how much do I owe?" That's when I realized she thought we were a doggy daycare. Now, I probably should have corrected her, but I loved my day with the office dog, and I did want to get paid for supervising the strange dog all day. I just threw out a number that sounded fair and appropriate. "That'll be $20, I said. She replied, "Really?" in a very high tone that I couldn't tell if I'd overshot or undershot. But she paid me and left. My coworkers were laughing hysterically when they realized what had happened, and we thought it'd be a good story for the future. But the next week, she came back. She said we were so much more affordable and less overcrowded than her other place and that she was happy to use us. I was glad for the company, so I just took him. I didn't think there was any way she couldn't have at least had some idea that we weren't a doggy daycare. The whole ordeal was so strange. I just figured, don't question a good thing. I was much younger and dumber then. Not long after, Otis started getting dropped off 2, sometimes even 3 or 4 days a week. I was in heaven. He was such a love, and he made fast friends with the delivery guys and visitors. One day, we took our office Christmas card photos, and Otis was over that day, so we included him in a Santa hat. It's pretty neat. But it turns out Otis's owner was friends with one of our clients who I guess happened to have the card out on her table or was kind enough to display it alongside her other holiday cards. Because one day, Otis's owner came in holding the card and walked up to me and said, I can't believe I'm asking this, but is that my dog in this photo? This isn't a dog daycare after all. It's just an office, isn't it? She said it with a note of surprise, as though she was looking around and putting it all together for the first time. No coincidence that this was the first time she wasn't in some crazy rush either. She was like, then who are all these other dogs? And I explained. I was terrified she was going to demand her money back, or worse, take some sort of legal action against us for misrepresenting ourselves as a dog care business, or complain to corporate. Instead, she basically said, "Why didn't you ever say anything?" And I explained we really just liked having Otis around. She stopped for a minute and seemed to be thinking and said, "Is that right?" I said yes, and told the story of how I was the only one in the office without a dog, so I loved the company. She seemed a bit flummoxed or hesitant, understandably, because the whole thing was kind of weird. She turned to my coworker and asked if I was telling the whole truth. I don't know why she thought my coworker, also a stranger, was any more trustworthy than me, but hey, whatever, strange times. Coworker backed me up. So she said, "Well, I wish you'd said something sooner. Could have saved me a lot of embarrassment with my friend back there." "All right, I have to get going. See you at 4. And she left Otis. I couldn't believe it. I said, "So he can stay?" And she replied, "Where else would I find someone to watch him all day for $20? And off she went. Otis stayed my office dog until his family moved away, luckily right around the same time I took a new job. With all this time sitting around doing nothing, thought it was as good a time as any to tell that story. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.